One of the worst sales meetings ever. Hey there, ABK here. Years ago, I was invited to give an inspirational talk to a poor performing sales team. Obviously, sales were down, morale was low. I arrived at the quarterly meeting and you could have cut the tension with a knife. They were barely making eye contact with one another. They weren't talking to one another. We sat down, the meeting begins. They race around the room and check in with their percentage to goal. So you hear things like, I'm at 32%, I'm at 47, I'm at 56, but then there was no dialogue. There was no conversation. There was no problem solving. And I was like, now wait a minute. I'm a huge fan of metrics. I believe in KPIs, key performance indicators, but we need to also have critical thinking. And how about just collaboration and connection? The leader then proceeded to give a motivational talk on how they needed to start closing deals. And if they didn't start closing deals, heads were going to roll because then he was going to have to change compensation packages and they weren't going to like it. And that's why they should listen to me. And I was like, no. So yeah, I modified my speech a little bit in the moment. But then after the meeting, I had a private conversation with the sales leader and I asked him, is this how all of your meetings flow? And he was like, well, no. Sometimes, we check in with on track or off track, but I've noticed most people don't want to say that they're off track, so they just lie. And I was like, okay. And I said, no, wait a minute. You really care about your sales team, don't you? And it's like, well, of course. And I said, all right, are you open? Would you be willing to try some new things to see if we can get a little, boost in our sales? He was like, sure. And I said, okay, I have 3 low-hanging fruit, quick tips that I think can get you a pretty good ROI pretty quickly. I said, first, I know that the check-in was designed for efficiency's sake, but I think it's undermining you. I said, first of all, this is a culture, this is a tone and tenor right now. Sales are down, morale is low, where it is no longer safe and potentially embarrassing to say that you're off track, which is why people are gonna lie. I said, if we swap that out with an agenda of questions, whether you come up with the agenda, they do, or you do a combo, you could really raise the critical thinking quickly and you could harness the collective intelligence in the room, therefore increasing buy-in and engagement. And the list of questions is endless, whether you're talking about how might we define an ideal client, to how do we make it easier to do business with us, to are there products or services that we're not offering that we could be, it can go on and on. Second thing I want you to do, answer those questions in real time and then hold your people accountable to doing something differently coming out of that conversation. What can they do more of? What can they do better? What can they do in addition to what they're doing right now? In other words, what are they going to try that's different based on that high-level critical thinking conversation that you just had? Third thing, I want you to switch from transactional energy to service-oriented energy. And he was like, I'm not sure I know what you're talking about. And I said, well, transactional energy is closing the deal, which you said a lot. I said, that's a numbers game on the board. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying that it's a different energy, transactional energy, than service-oriented energy of I'm solving problems for my clients and my prospects. I am helping them. I'm becoming a trusted partner. I'm making a positive difference in the world. So I can look up and I can say, oh, 4 deals closed, or 4 clients served, or 4 clients had their problem solved. That's an intrinsically motivating energy shift that gets me even more committed and fired up. So if your sales are down, if your morale is low and you would like to get back on track, or you would like to increase your percentage to goal, these are 3 easy ways to get a shift in the momentum and ignite some brilliance on your team. And if that sounds good to you, then happy selling and happy serving from my heart to yours. Hugs.